Hey, Bill.
Hello.
How are you?
Oh, I'm good. How are you, mate?
I'm good. Want to wish you a happy belated birthday.
Thank you. You're very kind.
So, we just got the news not too long ago that you were going to do this Revolution 3 tour with the Cult, Bush, and STP.
Yeah.
We're pretty excited about it. How did that all come about?
I think initially it might have. I think maybe there was talk of, as often happens, everybody, as you've noticed, generally they try and pair bands together. Initially, I believe it was like the Cult and Stone Temple Pilots with the first thing, and then they were looking as a way to do that. And then I think the initial concept, somebody at Live Nation really liked that idea. And then they were like, well, how can we make this work? And then they kind of, Bush sort of came in quite late to the picture as an idea of making it a 3-band thing. Initially, I believe it was going to be like the Cult, Stone Temple Pilots, and then kind of a younger band, and then an opening band. As there is, there's an opening band on the tour as well. We go on before us all, a couple of young, cool, little up-and-coming bands. But I think that's how it came about. I think it's somebody just. It's amazing, really, when you think about it. All the managers, agents involved in getting 3 bands to agree to rotate their headline spot and. Or the show closer. I mean, we're all headlining, but, it's a package. But, yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a pretty cool concept that you'll have a different order each night with full sets.
Yeah, that's the idea, if we can pull it off. I think it's probably going to be a few minutes shorter than if you were to see us in a theatre or something, because just to fit each band in, but I don't think that'll be too terrible.
No. Your first date coming up is in about 10 days at Rocklahoma. And then you've got San Diego, and then you go back to Spain and the UK, and then back here to Vegas. How do you feel about these festival shows? Do you like playing festivals?
I'd say that again. Sorry, I missed the last bit of that.
Do you like playing festivals?
Yeah, I enjoy it. Once as a band you're tight enough and you've got your kind of band unity and that tightness together, I think it's great. You can just be parachuted into virtually any situation as long as you have a really good road crew. Because obviously, nobody's flying amplifiers and cabinets from America to Spain these days, unless you're on a major world tour. So you're using rented equipment, you're carrying, it's a whole thing these days, what we call fly dates. So if you've got a really good crew and the band are tight, then, which, we've been touring for the last couple of years on Hidden City, then it's great. When it's not great is if you're a little unsure as a band and you're perhaps not as rehearsed as you need to be, or you haven't done enough gigs. Festivals can be really challenging because there's just so much distraction and stuff going on and so many things you can't control that it's a bit like you roll the dice, you know what I mean?
Sure.
You get out there and, I've seen it be horrible for some bands, particularly the ones like the Cult. We're all organic, meaning there's nothing on tape, there's nothing on an iPad being played in the background. What you see is what you get. 5 guys, that's the noise. Other bands rely on other stuff to make their music sound good, and if that goes awry, then it can be a real mess.
Yeah, absolutely. You've been with the Cult, or what it was then, the Death Cult, since the early 80s. You've seen a ton of industry change. How do you feel about the state of the music business today?
I'm not deeply philosophical about it. I just think that it involves, times change, and I think that if there's always going to be enough young people. If they've got something to say, they're going to find a way to say it. I don't always subscribe to the "it was better in our day" thing. I just made sure I had as much fun and really had as good a time as I could when I had my kind of window of youth and opportunity. And I just think young people will do the same. They'll find their own route. nobody wants to listen to some old geezer. Well, it was way better in my day. You know what I mean? You just become your parents, and nobody wants to listen to that.
No.
Find a way, and things change. Less people are playing guitars. I would imagine that we're in more of an immediate culture. I'm sure everybody who, goes around life with their eyes open realizes that. So there's a tendency to think that machines can take over from human endeavor, therefore, and they can in certain ways, but then people are like, well, why do I really need to try and learn an instrument? That's very tiresome. Why do I need to actually try and write a song? Why don't I just take somebody's song and change it? And, that's sort of a shortcut, and people want a shortcut to the lifestyle, the cash and the prizes, the perceived cash and prizes of success, rather than, do the work that sort of brings those rewards in time. Just, it's just different.
Yeah, yeah. The first time I ever saw you guys, I think it was in about '84, and the last time I saw you was the Hidden City tour in Cleveland at the Roxino. And
oh, okay.
I don't think you've aged. How do you guys, keep that? You said you're tight. Obviously, you've been playing with each other you and Ian for a very, very long time. But how do you keep that energy each and every night?
It's a struggle, it's a struggle, and the best bands manage to make, a wet Tuesday night in somewhere unglamorous feel like it's playing Rock in Rio. That's why I admire the best artists do, because they make everybody feel, the concert they're going to special, because it is, and I just try and remind myself of that that might be my 5th concert in a row, and I might be a bit short on sleep, and the food might suck. But to the people who are showing up, it's an event to them, and you just have to try and keep that in your mind. Do you know what I mean? And the only thing I'd say about between 1984 and now is when I do the shows now, I get a lot more joy out of seeing people and really enjoying the music. You see them light up, and I like to think the cult's like nostalgia with a lowercase n. It's not all about the past. We make current music. The last album was as well received critically as any record we've ever made. So for us, I know it doesn't matter so much. We live in a different age, but it's good to challenge yourself and also see the fans respond to the new music as well as the classics,
Have you guys discussed going back into the studio for another record?
Yeah, we have. It hasn't got much further than the discussion stage. We know we can do it. It's more just a question of getting the vibe right. It's that intangible when it just feels right to do it. But yeah, we've talked about it. Sometimes I always, you look at a blank sheet of paper and you think, oh, are we ever going to be able to come up with something? But yeah, it's been talked about, but there's nothing concrete at the moment. Okay. Usually looking at a producer and trying to find somebody who can, help us get to where we need to be, because both me and Ian kind of write the music together, so we require a strong producer to help us,
Yeah, you talk about producer. I know that you've discussed that, if there was one record you would redo, it would be Ceremony. And you guys had such a huge shift on electric. Is that the producer who really pushed? Because I've heard both versions, obviously. Is it the producer that really brings that out of you?
Yeah, well, it's to see, you've got to be willing, like you can lead a horse to water and all that, you know what I mean? But the band has to be willing, but sometimes you need somebody outside of the band who you both trust, or all of you trust, to give you some direction, kind of lead. Every orchestra needs a conductor, and, sometimes that can be a strong, for us it's usually a strong, opinionated person is better. We respond better to that than kind of a wishy-washy approach, but I think that, but we were very willing with the electric album because the first version whilst it had some charm, I think our career would have been very different had we not redone it with Rick Rubin in the way that we did. I think we might not be having this conversation now.
Yeah, I mean, you guys just blew up from that record.
It just changed, it changed a lot of things, and it wasn't that it just was of its time. Our gut was like rock was making a comeback, like straight ahead, honest, clean, unadulterated rock, and that's the kind of album that we made with Electric. I think that the Love album had been a great album for what it was. It's actually still my particular favourite, but, I think that, logically we tried to go and apply the same techniques for Electric, and it just didn't work. The songs we were writing had changed, the band had toured a lot, the music was getting heavier, and the same production approach wasn't working. So it took something radical like us recording and mixing the whole album and then binning it, and for Rick Rubin to come in and, with his kind of very, I think I described him as the Pol Pot of music production. There's a way and there's a year, and Rick's done that with great success over the last 30 years, hasn't he?
Yes.
He makes the same record pretty much. These are the rules of rock and they never change. The pillars of rock music, and Rick did it because we couldn't have done that. I could not have got that simplicity in the music because I don't hear music like that when I write it. I hear it more layered and more, not complicated, just more layered and textural, more melodically complex. And Rick was at the other end of the spectrum. He knew he had good songs, he just thought there was too much going on. So, the famous quote, I didn't produce the cult as much as I reduced the cult, the noise that was going on, the extra bits, and that's what Rick did, and that was, important for us at that moment. We could never make that record again. You had to live. You had to live it. We were living the pirate lifestyle. We were young guys. With a first rush of success off the Love album, and we were just, it was authentic because we were living it.
Yeah.
It was somewhat of a cartoon lifestyle.
You have such a unique guitar sound. How did you develop that? Your particular sound.
In essence, it was just looking for something different after punk. Having watched all the punk bands and been in love with like Johnny Thunders and Steve Jones and Mick Jones from The Clash and all the great punk guitar players, from The Damned, and there was all that, and I was like, I just that was I was in the fan perspective looking at those bands. When I got in my own band, I was trying to find my own style, and initially I couldn't. It took me to get to the Gretsch, which was funny to find my own way. I always got in bands pretty easily, and I always was. People wanted me to join their bands, but it took me joining Theatre of Hate with the singer Kirk Brandon, who played Gretsch as well part time, and it all just came together. We were searching. A bunch of musicians were searching for a means to make us sound different than the bands that we grew up loving. We didn't want to just copy them. Where's the value in that? It's been done.
Yeah.
So I think in the simplest way, it was part of the search. And all the early 80s bands, we were just going for like playing with tribal music or disco beats or weird echoey guitars or anything that would not make us sound like, the punk stuff that had gone before,
Right.
That sort of statement had been made, and we were moving on and trying to reach, and that's why I ended up with the Gretsch,
Yeah.
It was a sonic thing, and a lot of other guys did it in their own ways, and so, they didn't all need to get a weird guitar, but to do it. But I think that was if you look at the kind of guitar players who were preeminent in the early 80s, you could see we were all reaching.
Absolutely. I don't want to keep you too long. I'm going to ask you one last question. The biggest mistake you think you guys have made over 30 plus years?
The biggest mistake?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. Let me think about that. That was, man, don't know. We've made a lot. We made a lot. Well, we were allowed to kind of, we sort of have been quite strong-willed, and, we had a, I don't know. That's a good question. I can't give you a one.
Yeah.
But I've never been asked that question before. That's a good one.
Well,
I'll have to get back to you on that one for the next interview.
Perfect. I appreciate that. Well, hey, we're really looking forward to you here in Pittsburgh on July 21st, and I'll be in the front looking for you.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Great interview. Thanks. Nice talking to you. Take it easy out there.
Same to you, Billy. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.